Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sound Off right here on WJMS Media. It's your girl Jams. I know you guys have not seen me in a very long time, and there's a good reason for that. I have been a little busy, but I am very excited to be back behind the microphone once again. It's been, like I said, I think my last show was, I almost want to say it might have been like at the beginning of this year. And I am so sorry about that. But, day-to-day operations and life in general just tend to get in the way sometimes of, really getting on and doing the content that you want. But that being said, I'm very, very excited for this show this afternoon. I have a really, really special guest. And it's nice because this is going to be a local flavor kind of show. So for those folks that don't know, we're based out of Georgia right now. And so I've been down here in Savannah for a couple of years. And I've met some really awesome people down here. And today I get to spotlight one of those people. Before we get into the show, as you know, we are live on our Facebook page, our Facebook group page, and also our YouTube page. So please, if you're watching right now, feel free to share the content with your friends and family. Have them tune in, especially if you're in Georgia, because we have, like I said, a local show happening today. So also want to remind you that if you comment on the broadcast, I can read it out loud. So you can interact with us, ask us questions, give us kudos, voice your opinions or your support, whatever you'd like to do. So please feel free to comment and tag and, just interact with us throughout the hour as we have this conversation. Very, very excited today. And you know what? It's October and it's spooky season. And y'all know that this is like my favorite time of season. So I'm super happy to be in front of everybody and able to talk about stuff. But anyway, let's get into it. I don't want to waste any more time. So my special guest for today is Chef Val Domingo. He's based out here in Georgia. He just opened a brand new restaurant in Rincon called the Sated Spoon. So if you haven't checked it out, we will tag the show or the business and everything so you guys can actually go look at it, follow it, and more importantly, go support it. He's originally from Charleston. His mom and his dad are both excellent cooks. His mom was more of a baker and the gardener, and his dad was more of the actual cook. The Sated Spoon is the restaurant that he just opened back in September. I believe we were just talking before the show, and he said that it's their 1 month anniversary, which is pretty cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too and how that first month has been. But the Sated Spoon is a gourmet food market where guests can come in on their lunch break or just stop in on their way home, and you can pick up ready-to-eat meals. So for folks that are on the go like myself, this is very big. They have provisions and sides where guests can purchase house-made breads, jams, pickled veggies, various dips and salad mixes and desserts. I've had some of their food too, and it's really good, so I can actually vouch for it. And then also the ready-to-eat meals include house-pressed paninis. They've got entrees as well as some pre-made pizzas and some other things that can be easily heated up in the oven. So if you don't have a lot of time to cook or reheat, we also have that covered too. Menus are tweaked weekly, and his private chef operation is actually entwined with the Sated Spoon. So he does offer the opportunity to do a private chef catered event for you, as well as, provide you with your ready-to-eat meals. His first job was at 14 first got involved in the kitchen at age 14, and his first job was McDonald's. We're going to dive into that because a lot of people start their first jobs at McDonald's and never have anything good to say about it. We're going to talk about it. Some of his accomplishments: he's a military vet. He served 4 years in the Navy submarine force as a cook and baker. We're going to get into that too. His first sous chef position was at age 26, which is very impressive. First executive chef position at age 31, also impressive. And in his career, he's opened 6 restaurants, 2 hotel restaurants. He's a corporate chef in Atlanta for an Atlanta restaurant group. And in Savannah, he helped to open the former Mission on Forsyth Park and the Perry Lane Hotel. Now, I don't want to take all of the credit. I want to give him an opportunity to talk a little bit about, where he's from and what he has going on. So I am going to welcome to the stage right now, Val Domingo. Welcome, Val. How you doing today?
Hey, how are you?
Doing really good. It's good to see you outside of our dog walk.
Exactly. Happy Sunday.
Yes. So I kind of gave the audience a little bit of a background on who you are and a little bit of your upbringing, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the present, and sort of from COVID to now, sort of what brought you to where you are today. So why don't you give the audience a little bit more of a history on yourself and the Sated Spoon, and then we'll dive right in.
All right. So, hey guys, thanks for having me. During COVID, I basically had to reinvent myself. I had previously opened the Perry Lane Hotel here in Savannah as one of our sous chefs there, and when COVID happened, like a lot of us, we in the hospitality field as well as in various fields, we had to figure out how to pivot from that. And one of those options that came across uh, my line of work was becoming a private chef. And so I initially started with a group called Food Fire Knives, and they're based out of Charleston. And um, so I contracted with them, and then a year later, I started doing more private chef events on my own. And then I just really wanted to see if I could actually open and run a location, like a brick and mortar place. And with meal prep being so popular and everyone's on the go, and everybody's rushed with life and
Hmm.
all that craziness, I just felt that uh, I should look into more into a meal prep, ready to eat meals. And that kind of led me to the Sated Spoon, which is located in Rincon, Georgia, which is about 25 minutes north of Savannah. So I found a small little place. It's about 1,000 square foot kitchen, and it's the perfect size for what I need to do as far as executing this ready to eat meal program, as well as continuing my private chef business.
Yeah.
So we just opened in last September, September 7th, I believe. I purchased the property in August. We opened in September, and it's been a pretty interesting ride so far, to say the least.
Absolutely. And I came on opening day because I wanted to show my support. And I walked away with some focaccia bread, which was really good. And I got the garlic Parmesan breadsticks. And
Yeah.
then, first of all, I'm not supposed to be eating all this bread. Like, my husband's going to kill me. But no, I walked away with those two breads. And I also got your apple cinnamon butter, I believe it
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. So I want to, before we get into all of the menu, how you came to, create the menu and curate it, I want to
Mhm.
dive a little bit more into your background to see
Sure.
kind of like where Chef Val came from.
Yeah.
So you said you've been in the kitchen since you were 14, which,
Mhm.
is kind of cool because when I was 14, you couldn't pay me to get in the kitchen. But that being said, both of your parents being good cooks, which is also very rare. Normally in a relationship, like one or the other is a cook. You know what I mean? Like you very rarely find the two that both cook. So which one of your parents would you say that you like identify with more in the cooking realm? Like, is there one of your parents who you kind of get more inspiration from for their cooking, or is it like a combination of both?
It really is a combination of both, because I didn't go to culinary school at all. So I learned hands on from both my mom and my dad. My mom, like I mentioned earlier, was she's more of a baker um, and gardener, and we always grew up with a small garden in the backyard. So trips to like fast food restaurants were pretty much non-existent, and if they were existent, it was like on a special treat day, if you will.
Yeah.
My dad was more of a cook, and he was in the military as well, in the Navy, and retired there. And back then, when he was in, my dad's like 89 now. Um,
Hmm.
um, Basically, back when he was in the Navy, African Americans and Filipinos, the only job that they could have was being a cook.
Mm.
And so that's what he joined in as, from the Philippine Army and stuff. He went from the Philippine Army to the to the U.S. Navy in the Philippines, and so that's what he did for a good while until the rates were able to open up. So, but Filipinos, we love to cook. We were everyone associates good food with this guy a Filipino. Oh my god, good. I met a a quote unquote bad Filipino cook.
Well, that's a lot of pressure for the Filipino community. Yeah.
We cook a
Well,
lot from the heart.
it sounds like you kind of followed your dad's footsteps a little bit in terms of like the military career and all that.
Mhm.
So, what was it like being a Navy cook? Because I don't know, it's probably I'm a little, you know, uneducated in the ways of the military, but from what I know, I mean, most of the time, military folks, whether it's Army, Navy, Marines, whoever, you're not really eating for enjoyment. You're like at mess hall, just eating, trying to get this meal in because you got to run off to do this, that, or the third. So, what
Right.
is it like, or what was it like being a Navy cook?
So I was on submarines. So the idea for cooks on the submarine is to uh, actually boost morale
Okay.
because we're underwater for however many length of time, between 3 and 6 months, and you're seeing the same people every day.
Yeah.
So, you definitely want to spruce up the menus a little bit better than, and they always say that the best food in the Navy is on a submarine, mainly because we don't have the space to bring in ready prepared meals.
Right.
Where we actually had to cook everything from scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah, a good bit. It's not everything, but I would say probably about 70-80% of ingredients was made from scratch, like the pizza doughs on pizza nights,
Wow.
fresh breads, the whole 9 yards. And what's crazy is one time when I was on the baking rotation, um, my 60-quart mixer that I used to make bread in broke. And so it's not like we can call,
Right.
a Hobart technician to come out. Hey, can you come fix our stuff?
So
So
they take
I'm
your
basically rolling kneading dough by hand. And that's a lot of bread for 110, 115 sailors.
yeah.
That's but I love the experience. I love the fact that we got to travel quite a bit. And whatnot. I've been around the world, and not many people can say that, and so and for free. So
Right.
so it was kind of nice.
So, all right. Now okay, you're cooking underwater. I have several questions
Sure.
that are jumping from that. Number one, I'm in facilities. So how are we ventilating the space underwater? Because you have to be like the kitchen ovens and stoves have to, you
Yeah,
got to
we
have
have
a stack.
we have air vents in the kitchen.
Okay. But is it just blowing out underwater?
Um, this is like 20, 30 years ago, so I can't really remember
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
actually works.
I'm just thinking because I'm
But
like,
yeah.
okay, I know there's regulations on like ventilating the kitchen when you're
Mhm.
cooking. So I'm like, what? Underwater?
Mhm.
And then how are you can't bring in fresh ingredients. So I mean, what kind of did you guys have to plan that menu in advance?
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Well, there's a Navy approved menu um,
mm,
menu card box, and it has the menus and the ingredients and everything. So, when the chief of the head of a mess of a cook division, he chooses the menus and what needs to be made, and we order accordingly beforehand, and we can store probably, I think we can store up to 6 months of food. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, or ingredients.
Yeah.
Between eggs and milk and all that fun stuff. But
So then I guess
sometimes you would run out of milk, and
yeah,
then you have that what they call the white death, which is the powdered milk and stuff, and
with water.
no one drank that. No one drank that at
So
all.
I assume as you come up for air in the submarine, like you guys are refreshing supplies and maybe getting things repaired that are broken. Is that how it's working?
We don't. Uh, well, we service. Well, I was on a fast attack sub, so there's two types of submarines. There's a fast attack, and there's the what we used to call boomers or Trident submarines. Those
Mhm.
those guys go out 3 months out at a time and don't come up. Um, but the fast attack subs, we go out at a minute notice,
Mm.
and wherever we pull in a port, we have either we have to get um, supplies and stuff like that if it's available. But for like food wise, we have all that stuff stored in
Okay.
our um, coolers and stuff. So
So what was like
very
your key
small.
what would your key takeaways be from your Army or your Navy cooking experience? Like what kind of stuff did you take from there, if anything, that you're now working with now, or just maybe did it help train you in any way, or like just what was
Yeah, we were able. I didn't know that you could leave eggs out all day long, and we would leave flats of eggs out, above a griddle and stuff, and it would be just fine. It would just sit there, and it would it would be okay. Um, what else? The whole reading recipes and being able to follow them to a T. That helps as you get out into the real world and have to uh, have to be consistent in
Mhm.
in your product making.
Yeah.
So that's always important, and just the whole the camaraderie, the teamwork behind it. There wasn't. It's not like on a aircraft carrier or a bigger surface ship where you have like 40 cooks or 30 cooks or however many cooks. I mean, there's like maybe three cooks on the boat and one guy that does one guy that pulls a product. Um, he's called the jack of a box, I think is what we used to call him.
Mhm.
But he was the guy that pulled everything for the cooks, and then there was one cook that worked the overnight shift because they get fed four times a day. So
Mhm.
breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then they called midrats, and that's usually like leftovers from the night or from the night before.
Okay.
Um, so those guys, that guy would work um, overnight, and he would also be the night baker and take care of breakfast, and then the other cook would come in for lunch and dinner. And,
Okay.
and yeah, we just all try to help each other out as best we can.
So I'm gonna just go out on a limb here and assume that the key takeaways from working at McDonald's as your first job were not that many. What was that experience like?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was tough. That was very challenging. Just seeing all that grease get collected into the grease trap there, and having to empty it out, and yeah, it was just. Ugh. I swore to my mom and dad, I was like, I'm not doing this ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just nuts. I mean,
Well,
uh,
the
yeah,
quality of McDonald's is just nothing compared to the quality of a home cooked meal from mom or dad. And you're like
right.
used to being in a kitchen with a fresh garden and then going to McDonald's. It's like, and working at McDonald's, you're like, this is not it. This is
I
like,
mean, well, at least at the time when I was a kid, we were using actual real ground beef,
oh,
for
yeah. Well,
great burgers. It wasn't like a soybean patty or whatever.
disclaimer, McDonald's,
Yeah.
we're not coming at you or nothing. I'm
Yeah, no,
in
no,
trouble
no,
from McDonald's.
no,
But yeah.
just not a big fan.
Right, right. And so from the Navy, your accolades are pretty impressive to be a sous chef at age what, 26 and then executive chef at 31.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty accomplished, right? I mean, I'm not super
Mhm.
well versed in chefdom, but I know that that's sous chef and exec chef are big deals. So like how did all that come about? And was there had to have been a lot of pressure on you to, get to these roles and to really actually hold them
Yeah,
at such a young age?
my first sous chef role was very challenging. I worked for a French Portuguese chef in Charleston, and he was very vocal.
I
Say
know
the
what that
least.
means.
And, but I worked with him right after I got out of the military, and worked my way up to that sous chef role, and I was actually quite surprised that he had offered me that, just because of the relationship that we had. But
Mhm.
looking back at it now, it was he groomed me quite a bit, and I just didn't realize it at the time because I was young and
Yeah.
you know. ignorant, a little bit, little, yeah. So, but yeah, I worked with, at this. There was a restaurant in Charleston called McGrady's,
Hmm.
and it was a super high end restaurant, and unfortunately, it just closed during COVID, I think. But at that time, he had owned it, or he was with a group that owned it, and the French Portuguese restaurant was where it was above McGrady's. McGrady's was more like the tavern, the American tavern,
Yeah.
American tavern kind of deal. Yeah. So, and he only had French cooks that worked upstairs, and I had kind of he had asked me to work up there one day, and I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And boy, he set me up really good.
Sent you to the wolves, huh?
Yeah. It was absolutely nuts. But
Okay.
yeah, we had that love hate relationship, and I think he's back in France now. I don't know. I've lost track of him and what have you. But he was an amazing mentor. Kind of wish I had just listened better
Yeah.
back in the day.
Well, so I'm going to bring it all the way back a little bit. So for those folks who are, like I said, I'm not a chef expert. So break it down for the audience who's tuning in, what the difference is between like a sous chef and executive chef, because there's probably folks, myself included, who don't necessarily know what that difference might be.
Well, the sous chef's the workhorse.
Okay.
He's basically, and there are some executive chefs that are workhorses as well, but the sous chef usually handles the brunt of everything. And
Mm.
there's different levels of being a sous chef, and yeah, there's the exec sous chef or the chef de cuisine that kind of oversees the restaurant if there's multiple outlets in an establishment, and then and he handles all the sous chefs that are underneath him, kind of deal. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, but the executive chef is the guy that kind of runs the menu, creates the menu, the whole 9 yards. He works with his if he's really good, he'll get input from his sous chefs since they're the ones that are actually in the fire, producing, prepping the whole 9 yards, and
Okay.
then you know, and then the sous chefs kind of carry it all out from there, distribute the weight, hopefully evenly amongst the rest of the team. So
Okay. That makes sense. All right. I appreciate that. So sometimes it's like, you get into these conversations and you're like, all right, we need to probably break down some of these common terms so that people actually
yeah,
know what that means.
usually when the restaurants that are really popular, that are really good, I have a lot of great accolades. Uh, the executive chefs, obviously get the credit, but it's the sous chefs behind the scenes that keep the place up to the executive chef standards, kind of deal.
Okay.
So
So I'm going to ask a couple of silly questions just to before we transition over into the sated spoon.
yeah,
Firstly, what is, because you said you've been around the world and you've traveled on submarines and whatnot, and you're a cook, so you know the different types. What is your favorite type of cuisine besides Filipino? You can't share.
oh man,
I'm not going to give you the easy answer. You got to give a different one.
yeah, I love great Italian food. Uh, it's something about the freshness of the ingredients, the
Hmm.
homemade pastas, and I know everyone's like trying to be watching their carb intake and stuff like that, but I mean, it really is just an interesting cuisine because it's so versatile, and it's not just pasta. We got risottos and different types of herbs, and
Mm.
it just cheese. Who doesn't love cheese? Exactly, right?
Cheese and bread and pasta, like just
Yeah.
when I die, bury me in spaghetti. Like that's it. It's simple as that. But so I guess then in that same token, say you had booked a celebrity guest come into some restaurant and you had one shot to make them a meal that you know was going to knock their socks off.
Mm.
What would that meal be? I guess I'm asking you what your specialty is or what's your dish? What is the dish that you make
Oh
the
my
best?
gosh.
It could be more than one if it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, if it's wow, way to put me on the spot.
I know. Chance of a lifetime. What dish are you gonna knock
Um,
their socks off with?
um, gosh,
We can always come back to it if we have to.
yeah. I mean, no, I mean, I do. My pork chops are really out of this world. I have this one dish on my private chef menu. It's a sweet tea and bourbon brined pork chop that I actually just served yesterday to a bunch of people, a 70th birthday party, and it's hand cut pork chops. I get the whole rack, and I butcher it down myself, and I
Oh,
brine in the sweet tea and bourbon for like 24 hours, and I serve it with like a smoked Gouda mac and cheese and some bacon roasted Brussels sprouts, and they were just like, it's a big chop. It's about a 10-ounce chop, but
oof.
you know, uh, everyone was just commenting as the same comments I hear all the time when people get this dish that when they cut into it, it's so tender. I'm like, it's not like a typical pork chop that would be dry or
Hmm.
overcooked or whatnot, but it has a lot. We're just commenting on how much flavor that had, and I mean, that's probably uh, a good Southern dish that I like to impress people with.
That
Um,
sounds amazing.
yeah, it's really good. I finished it off with like uh, a bourbon peach barbecue sauce glaze on there, and yeah, everyone just goes crazy over it. So
You had me at bourbon sweet tea. I was like, what? And then, like, you always assume pork chops are going to be dry. Like, to me,
right,
pork chops are like one of the hardest things to cook because it's
yeah,
like that internal temperature is very tricky.
yeah.
You know?
I mean, honestly, you should. I always cook my pork chops to like 140 degrees, and then I let it rest, and
Lovely.
that the whole residual cooking gets it up to about 150, which is where you want your pork chop to be for tenderness. And of
Okay, so
course,
I'm
it's
gonna
also
need
the
that pork
quality
chop.
of it's also the quality of pork you get too. So
Yeah.
I mean, I use pork racks out of North Carolina. They're Cheshire pig, and they're you know no no funny stuff in their feed, and
Yeah.
they're grass fed the whole 9 yards. Not grass fed, but we have a special diet that they consume, and but it's all natural, all natural
Oof.
food. That would be probably if that was like the that one dish. I guess like for a seafood dish, um, I do seafood real well. That's it. To
Okay.
my horn.
Well, of course, I'm gonna challenge you to let me taste test these
Oh
things
yeah, yeah,
because,
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Please, please, please. Yeah,
So
there's this.
go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like a seafood dish, I do when I can get it in season redfish, which is a
Oh,
local fish here, and I do a shrimp and crawfish etouffee over it, and like a Savannah red rice kind of deal. I mean,
oh,
as far as aesthetics, it doesn't look very pretty, but the flavor is definitely there. But
yeah,
everyone seems to like that. I try to cook as much local um, ingredients and product as I possibly can,
yeah,
and so with the different cuisines and whatnot, I still try to use as much of that local product and kind
yeah.
of use the region in there somehow,
Yeah, we're
regional.
gonna get into that too when we start talking about the logistics of the Sated Spoon and, like, getting those farm fresh ingredients that you're bringing in and stuff. So we'll
Yeah,
definitely dive into that.
cool.
One more fun question, and then we're diving in. So,
Okay.
all right, and I'm only saying this because I made my brother watch the show, but there's a show on oh god, I want to say Hulu
Fair.
called The Bear. Have you watched that show?
Oh, of course, of course.
How accurate is that? Like, is
It's
that really
very
how
accurate. I
chefs like
mean,
operate?
it's very accurate. I mean, it's probably. I mean, I watched that show and I was getting like little PTSD moments from when I was when I was in kitchens and
Yeah.
especially in opening restaurants and what have you, opening with a seated spoon, the same way. I mean, it's so stressful and so intense, and everything may seem to go your way, and then the day of, it's just like it just all goes to crap.
Yep.
Did I say crap? I don't know.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Uh, yeah, it just all goes to crap, and having to uh, balance that and still be, the leader, so to speak, mentor kind
Mhm.
of deal to your staff is really, really, really tough. And you know, I've lived that, and yeah, this is the reason why I haven't opened a brick and mortar actual sit down restaurants. I'm like, I'm 51 now. I don't really want all that stress.
Right, right. And my
Yeah.
brother is a chef as well, and he's been a chef for as long as I can remember. I watched that show and I was just like, I was like, I need you to watch this show and tell me how accurate this is. And he was like, that's pretty accurate. I was like, you guys really operate like this? This is I was stressed just watching it, and I'm like, I don't even cook, and I'm like, I got to get out of
Mm,
this kitchen.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
can't
no,
do it.
it's
Whew.
tough. It's
Yeah.
a tough industry. So
All
it's not
right.
the free
So
Netflix shows.
yeah, that brings us into the real reason you're here, besides the fun conversation part of it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the sated spoon. And because you and I have been connecting a little bit on our walks in the morning, and I
Mhm.
know that there's been some hiccups and there's been some back and forth and things with getting this, getting the business open. So
Yeah.
congrats on your 1 month anniversary. But can you talk a little bit about what led you up to where you are? I know that there's been some, like all of the different, authorities that needed to come in and make sure you were good. So let's talk a little bit about the struggle, and then let's talk about how beautiful things have been for the first month.
Yeah. So it's definitely been challenging, especially when I say I've helped open restaurants. Um, you know, I was assisting the owners, the in some cases the chef, in creating menus, but um, being the owner and the chef and
Hmm.
basically wearing all the hats, it's it's been definitely been a challenge, and then trying to find good help, and that's all part of the challenge,
Yeah.
and so that that and dealing with the authorities to make sure I have the proper licensing and what have you, just threw more fuel to a fire, so to speak, and watching my bank account go from X amount of dollars to much less, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is this is the real deal right here. This isn't
Yeah.
actually helping open. This is you're it. And understanding that mindset and trying not to uh, freak out a little bit, or trying to keep calm composure, uh,
Yeah.
and definitely relying on my faith a lot, and my small team of guys and girls that uh, helped me get it open. So I'm indebted to everyone, that has been able to put their 2 cents in, and because I couldn't do it all. There's no way in heck I would have been able to get this
Yeah.
open in time.
Absolutely.
So
And you have been pretty even keel. Like I mean, even with all the stressors, because I was like right before the week before opening and stuff, like I feel like that was like fever pitch for stress. And like you just
yeah,
seem at least on the walk, you seem
yeah.
very, very
Well,
even
that's
keel,
why I love doing those
So
walks with my dog. It just helps
yeah.
me to um, think more clearly and clear my head and prioritize what the things I need to do. And
Hmm.
sometimes I'm the type of guy that if I don't get everything accomplished that day, um, I tend to either really stress out or get really moody.
Yeah.
And so having to learn how to deal with that and try not to freak out as much, and take it, this is what I can do today. This is what are my priorities, and trying to realign my day, before I used to be able to walk my dog Maggie, like 4 or 5 miles every day and what have you, and leave at like 7:30 and be back by 9. And now I'm waking up at 5:30 to get on the walk by 6:30, and it's
Mhm.
usually around my house or around my neighborhood, and so that's only like maybe like 2 miles, which is fine as long as I'm walking and able to get some time to reevaluate and rethink and prioritize. That has been key. You
Yeah.
know. hmm hmm
So I wanna ask because you've opened what 6 restaurants, 2 hotel restaurants.
Yeah.
You've been part of some seriously awesome teams. What makes the Sated Spoon different from these other ventures that you've been a part of, or is it sort of like a accumulation of all of the things that you've done so far?
It kind of is like a accumulation of everything, but at the same token, it's different. The State of Spoon, like I said, is we're a food market, and so it is grab and go. So right there has been a little bit of a challenge for me because chefs, we like to create things and make things look pretty and present to guests and get the feedback of oohs and ahs and this is great and what have you. And so now it's like putting stuff in, trying to plate stuff nicely
Mhm.
and meal prep containers and
Yeah.
you know, and then trying to not make so much so that everything stays fresh and what have you. So it's definitely different. It's definitely more challenging. Uh, I definitely didn't kind of think this through at the beginning, and so it was definitely a big challenge at the beginning, trying to adapt to that style.
Yeah.
Um, and then also listening to guests and seeing what they would like to have, and just in conversations or whatnot. But everyone, for the most part, I've been really blessed in that. For the most part, I haven't received any negative comments about the food or how everything tastes. It's all been very positive, and so,
Delicious.
I just can, you know, I can just be thankful for that and continue to grow on that, and again, before it was just me assisting or being on a team, and now it's really just me and my pastry chef, to make things happen. And I do have a little bit of help now, which has been great, and definitely much needed and appreciated. But at the end of the day, it's me that's it's my name that's on everything that's going out, and my reputation, and trying to adjust that reputation and create that with a meal prep uh, environment, is definitely a lot more challenging than if I was at a restaurant, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a perfect time for us to segue into you shouting out your team since they are definitely integral in you pulling this
Yeah,
off. So why don't you take a second and shout out all the key players on your team who have helped you get to where you are right now?
yeah, definitely. My social media IT guy, Alejandro Gutierrez, has been a integral part of my private chef and the Say the Spoon aspect of it, because he's very smart in creating websites and all that fun stuff. And um, I tried to do that once and definitely could not do what he does. My pastry chef is amazing. Her name's Artiana Owens, and she has her own business called Arte's Cakes and Confections here in Savannah. And she does amazing cakes and desserts as well. And she used to be one of my pastry chefs at the Perry Lane Hotel. And, uh, she's kind of like me, kind of trying to do her own thing as well. And so definitely, if you have a chance to support her and her business, you definitely should. Um, my girlfriend Doreen, she's kind of um, she's kind of painted, well, not champagne, but she's decorated the interior of the place to make it more inviting and welcoming, and has some really great ideas for that. Yeah, so my cousin Delma. I can't get to leave her out because she's my lumpia wrapper. And in case you don't know what that is, that those are the Filipino egg rolls, and she's it's like one of our top number one sellers. Everyone always picks those up, and it's so hard to keep up with a production of that because she works, and so it's like when she has time to roll it, she rolls it, and it's usually on the weekends. So, but yeah, without that team, um, I definitely would not have been able to keep it open.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to the teams that keep things running, including the team that makes WJMS run as well. So myself, of course, my dad, Steve, he's also like my official, unofficial board of director is what we joke about because there's only one. It's like just him. And to everybody else, the interns and everyone that helped keep me going, because I don't think, like you said, I don't think I could do this whole thing by myself. It's just too much work, and I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, you've seen like my show is very few and far between because of how much work goes into just the day-to-day operations of the media company. But yeah, shout out to teams because teams are very important. um so one thing I noticed when I had the food there on the opening day is that everything is very fresh. And I know part of your sort of business plan and business strategy is to use farm fresh ingredients
Yeah,
for all of your stuff. So for those that don't know, can you talk a little bit about, I guess, how you selected the local farmers that you're working with and what that process is to like get their ingredients into the shop?
yeah, absolutely. So I guess a lot of it has to deal with building relationships, right?
Hmm.
So being in restaurants for as long as I have, we've been able to create some really great relationships with some of the local farmers and businesses. Um, for example, Better Fresh Farms in Metter, they used to supply us at the Perry Lane with their garden varietals, their romaine, their signature blend lettuce, which is like a baby lettuce blend, if you will,
Hmm.
and you know that relationship has carried on to now up to now, and it's been a few years since I've been away from like a lot of the from restaurants and what have you, since COVID,
Yeah.
so to be able to maintain that relationship throughout the years has been crucial. And you know, he's always said that whenever his name is Grant Anderson, and he, he's always said that if I ever get a chance to open up something and I could use this product to let him know. And sure as hell heck when this thing became more a reality, I definitely reached out to him because his produce is amazing. Like you buy lettuce at the grocery store, and you maybe get like a day or two out of it if you're
Yeah.
lucky. His product lasts for a good 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then like the Springer Mountain Farms chicken, those guys I actually met them when I used to work in St. Simon's, and their family used to come to one of the restaurants I used to work there, and be able to vacation down there, and that's how I kind of met up with those guys. So it's always been a connection in restaurants. Same thing with a beef that I use, Brasstown beef in North
Hmm.
Carolina. I use them primarily um, for my private chef stuff because their stuff's a little bit more pricier.
Yeah.
But it is, when I lived in Atlanta, I kind of oversaw 6 restaurants in Atlanta, and was kind of a corporate chef. And anyways, we used their beef for our burgers kind of deal, and so was able to go up to that farm and see the whole process of how they raise these cows, and get the tour, and see the passion behind these guys. So these are all important to me as I um, select who I want to partner up with. And
Yeah.
then there's like bigger purveyors like farmers and fishermen in Atlanta who are they carry a lot of great product, great seafood products and what have you, and they travel down to Savannah, twice a week, and for a local business guy, it's great because they have no minimum. So a lot of these bigger corporations, bigger vendors, they have minimums, and we don't have minimums, so
Yeah,
minimum orders. So it's great that I can just order what I need um, for when I need it.
that's perfect.
Hmm.
I love that. So, I mean, at this point, COVID has played a major role in, the opening of the Sated Spoon, because COVID allowed you some time to reflect and,
Oh yeah.
figure out what it was that you wanted to do. So do you think that you would have opened this business no matter what? Or do you think that this was, definitely due to COVID and you having to sort of pivot and reevaluate things?
Well, I mean, originally I was really in tune. I was really focused on my private chefing business, and you know, it's still going strong to this day. So I'm very, very fortunate to
Yeah.
be able to do that. I guess it was, I don't know. I guess it was last year when um, I just kind of had like a thought that maybe I could open up a brick and mortar establishment, and then doing the research of what I knew I didn't want to do an actual restaurant just because of all the stress, and I wouldn't be able to do my private chef thing,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to work like you know 80 million hour work weeks that I put in the restaurant. Now I work a lot of hours at the Sage Spoon. At least I can.
It's yours.
Yeah, it's mine. And I get to make my own hours
Yeah.
and whatnot. So it just all became part of a whole idea. Just thinking about it, and we do have an off season as private chefs, and so I just thought, if I could do open up a place like the Sata Spoon, um, it would be just extra income.
Mhm.
Um, so it's because we've only been open a month now, and the sales have been pretty good, a lot higher than I initially imagined it to be, but uh, hoping to
Now,
grow that.
is this off season for chef? Like, what's peak season for chefs and what's off season for chefs?
For private chefs, for me, anyways, I can only speak for me, but usually peak season or my season usually starts in March and
Hmm.
will last all the way through about September, and
Okay.
it's just nonstop parties left and right. I cater. I have a radius that I travel to, so I travel all the way up to Charleston sometimes,
Okay.
and I also I'm in Hilton Head a
Hmm.
a lot, especially in March. I could probably just live there, yeah, because I traveled there quite a bit, um, and then obviously Savannah and what have you. But yeah, Hilton Head keeps me busy. Families book me for a week, and sometimes a week, sometimes a few dinners, while they're there. So, and it's the same reason that the common reason is the fact that they don't want to have to wait in restaurants, or they don't have to. They have their kids, and they want
Yeah.
their kids to be able to play and not have to watch them as closely, the whole 9 yards, and they can come and sit and as they are, whatever attire that they want to sit in, they're comfortable where they are, and then you
Yeah.
get a nice, high end meal, you know, without the stuffiness, I guess, of a high end restaurant, so to speak.
And cost wise, it's got to be a lot more comparable, especially when you start looking at how much it costs to take like a family of 4 or 5 out to dinner nowadays. You
Yeah,
get a private chef and have them come to the comfort of your own home to cook your meal. And
right,
you're probably saving a little bit of money because it's not going to cost you as much with tips and gratuities. You're
right,
obviously getting tips and gratuity, but
right,
like not the standard, like, they tack it on top and yeah,
right.
it makes a lot more sense. So
Hmm. Hmm.
that's pretty good.
So.
So why Rincon and not Pooler? It's obviously there's a big heavy push to, bring Pooler up for whatever reason. They're putting
Mm,
everything in Pooler.
I
So what was
know.
the thought process into like putting the business in Rincon as opposed to there?
So Rincon is definitely growing. When I first lived here back in early 2000s, I would, there's only been a few times I had been up to Rincon, and I remember going through there. It was just all woods.
Yeah.
It was really very rural. Not much there to do or whatnot. So, um, but now, with Hyundai plant nearby, and a lot of Gulfstream uh,
Hmm.
people that are living out there, and then Savannah Pooler. Well, I don't know about Pooler, but Savannah is definitely not cheap anymore, and
Not at all.
Savannah is definitely inundated with a lot more people now. Um, getting that food accolades like Charleston and stuff has driven people to come out here and experience Charleston's sister city, if you will.
Yeah.
So they've stayed. They came, they visited, and they've stayed. So you know, and that's a great thing, right?
Yeah.
Growth is a great thing, but that also means higher rents and higher, taxes. You know, um, much longer wait times and trying to get things approved.
Yep.
Um, so, but Rincon. Um, from a time in the last 5 years has doubled, tripled their population, and and it's just getting bigger. And I think, I mean, you drive down 21, you'll see all the housing developments that are coming up.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and a lot more businesses are starting to get into Rincon. And so, when I found this spot, this strip mall off of 21, think it's called the Shops at 21 Center.
Hmm.
Um, there's all the shops there are all locally driven.
Yeah.
There's not a Starbucks, or there isn't a Chick-fil-A in a strip mall. These are all local artisan shops, local business owners. So, they're going through that same struggle of trying to support local, and one of the things that was mentioned to me many times, especially from the previous owners of a location that was there, of a business that was there, was that uh, Rincon, Effingham County, everyone here supports
Hmm.
local businesses, and I can't say how true that is. I mean, everyone has been really supportive in town, and meeting all these great people and getting to know everyone, and everyone says, yeah, we'll support you, we'll continue to support you. And it's true evidence in that, you know that first couple of weeks when I was still trying to, like, okay, I'm not going to have this ready yet, and I would put it
Yeah.
out on Facebook, like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to figure this out, kind of deal. And everyone's been so supportive and so positive, and like, don't worry, we'll come and visit you when you're up and running and when you think you're good, So,
Yeah.
that kudos to the whole entire town of Rincon and Effingham County that have come by to support me so far. Definitely, definitely, definitely appreciate all of that. So,
All right. Well, just a few more questions before we wrap.
sure.
One fun question to end, of course, but what I want to know is what is your favorite thing on your menu right now? I know that's probably hard to answer since it's a menu curated by you, but what is your favorite thing on the menu?
So our menu changes weekly. The meal prep menu changes weekly. Um, I haven't really released a menu out, but I will say that a lot of my guests have been asking for other Filipino dishes, inspired dishes.
Okay.
So this week we are going to be featuring the adobo, the pork adobo, which
Ooh,
basically it's a pork shoulder that's been braised. It's marinated in soy sauce and vinegar and braised with some peppercorn and bay leaves. And man,
it sounds good.
I could eat a lot of that. It's so good. Has a little bit of touch of coconut milk in there. We're gonna serve it with cauliflower rice this time around to make it low carb for all my low carb guests and what have you. Uh,
Nice.
so yeah, I think that's going to be a big hit this week. You know.
Okay. All right. So one fun question, and then just one more, and then I'll give you an opportunity to shout out, information on the business where people can go and all that good stuff. But real quick, what is the hardest thing you have ever had to cook, or what do you still struggle with to this day trying to cook? Give people like me some hope. Like, can you not make rice? Because like,
Oh, I can make rice. I mean, yeah, Filipino. I gotta make rice.
right, like rice is like a staple. Okay, maybe not rice, but
Okay, so this is kind of funny. I usually make my stuffings from scratch and what have you, but
yeah.
every now and then I'll try out the stovetop stuffing, add water to it. Always mess that up every single time. I don't know what it is. I'm just like, well, I guess I just have to make my own stuffing from now
So let
on.
me get this straight. World-renowned chef, so
Yeah,
many years experience,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
can't make stovetop stuffing.
Exactly.
All right, I feel better.
Dry or too. I don't know what it is. I'm just like I measured the amount of water.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better for regular cookers like myself. But all right. So last question I have before I give you the opportunity to shout out the business once more is, what advice do you have to any up and coming cooks or anybody who might be in the industry feeling that burnout, or just anybody who might be looking to open up their own kind of restaurant? Like, what would be a solid piece of advice that you can give somebody listening today?
If you have, with, with everyone that's being burned out, take a minute, breathe, kind of calm down and reevaluate and reassess and prioritize what you can do. You're not going to get everything done on the first day or the second day, but make small goals for yourself so that they're easily manageable and achievable. Once you get those once you do that, then you can take on a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. But to try to do this, to try to handle the stress and of life and work and what have you, at one time, it's not healthy, so that's what I would say for those that are trying to open up their own businesses. Definitely do the research. You know, evaluate your funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. And just make sure you have a good business plan and who your audience is and what you're trying to do. If it matches up to the audience that you're trying to provide that service for, um, it's important. And be real with yourself because if you're not real with yourself, then it's going to show through.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Val, thank you so much for being with me today. I absolutely enjoyed talking to you. I feel so good knowing that you can't make stuffing. It gives hope to me that maybe I can.
I can make stuff.
He's like, no, I can make stuffing now. But before we leave, I want to give you the opportunity to shout out again the business, your hours of operation and where people can find you on social media and stuff like that. So why don't you give everybody the rundown?
Absolutely. So we are located in Rincon, Georgia, at the Shops at 21 Center. It's 169 Commercial Drive. If you'd like to come by and visit, I'm still working on signage. That's part of a challenge of being a business owner. But we have signs on the door, and my Facebook is The Sated Spoon. You can follow me on Instagram as well at Chef Val Domingo. And the Instagram for the Sated Spoon is at the underscore sated underscore spoon. We're trying to get that more in tune, but it is up and running. Um, yeah, I don't do Twitter, so I think those are the social media pages. But yeah, definitely come by and see us. I'm always there. As far as hours, we are closed on Sundays and Mondays, Tuesday through Thursday, 10:30 to 5:30, Friday and Saturday, 10:30 to 2. However, those hours aren't really set in stone as far as the closing time because if I have a private chef event, sometimes I close a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely communicate that via Facebook, via social media, so that everyone is aware of that. And and on the contrary, if I don't have any events, like on a Friday or on a Saturday, I definitely stay open till like 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Good
come
stuff.
by and see us. Come get your meal prep. Every day is a theme day at the Sage Spoon. Tuesdays is I call it a Fat Tuesday deal. Where last week I ran a pimento cheese and bacon burger
Mm.
with a side of tater tots for like $14. Wednesdays buy a sandwich and get a free dessert. Thursday you get buy a meal prep entree and you get half off of some our house-made garlic dinner rolls. And then Friday and Saturday we do game day specials like wings and what have you. So yeah, come check us out. We'd love to have you. We'd love to support your weekend of festivities and come by to say the spoon.
I love it. Well, again, I want to thank you for spending the last hour with us and kind of
Yeah,
talking through everything that you've been through and the
yeah.
awesomeness that you have going on at the Sated Spoon. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely looking forward to swinging back in, especially when you make that pork chop for me, because I'm going to go up there and I'm going to
All
get
right, sounds good. To be waiting for you.
that.
Take
All
care.
right, folks. So I want to again thank you guys so much for being with us this afternoon. This has been such a blast. I am going to do my best to do more shows for you, I promise. But in the meantime, I just want to thank everybody who has tuned in, who has waited, who's asked me when I'm going to be live again. Like I said, I'm going to do better, and I'm going to try to come to you guys a little bit more often, even if it's just to tell my story and talk about my journey. But again, I want to thank everybody who tuned in, who commented, who popped in, said hello, and then popped back out again. More importantly, I want everybody who's out here in Georgia to please go and check out the Sated Spoon. Support your local businesses. It's folks like us that keep these businesses in play. So please make sure that you go out there and support. For everybody that tunes in on a regular basis, thank you so much. Remember, you can follow us at WJMS Media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all those good things. We're also on YouTube as well. So make sure you connect with us so that you can keep on top of everything that we have going on. All right. So in the meantime, everybody be safe and be well. And I'll see you next time right here on WJMS Media.